Hello and welcome to this. This is a custom 3v3 match. This has actually been requested by Godzilla. He has thrown this one this way and he has said that this is a fantastic game, so let's put him to the test and see how he's going to get on with his predictions of whether we think it's an excellent game or not. So let's jump straight into the action and zoom into the top team. So up in the north we have got Double D, currently rated 1200 global. He has opted for UEF, and this we can see he's going first land, then a couple of pigeons before he grabs his core mexes. Beside him we have got Godzilla, and he has opted to go for Cybran. For this we can see he's also going first land. He's going to throw down a couple of pigeons and grab his core mexes. And Master Beta, will have to be a little bit careful about the pronunciation of that. If we get a little bit lazy, that could be interesting and perhaps affect the rating of this channel. In any case, he has gone for UEF and he has thrown down his first land factory, a couple of pigeons just like his teammates, and he's getting underway. Down in the south he will be facing Cups, currently rated 1100 on ladder. He has gone for Cybran and he is doing pretty much the same build, a slightly slower power there because he's using engineers to assist. And beside him we've got Legend Lore. So TGX Legend Lore, currently rated at 1400. He has opted for UEF in this. He has thrown down a couple of pigeons and getting his core mexes, so very much the theme on this, which is Plateau small. And last but not least, we have got Orion 66, currently rated 1300, and he has opted for UEF. So a very, very strong UEF and a little bit of Cybran presence in this particular game. So this is Plateau small. There is a whole lot of mexes spread all around the map, and you will have to be expanding pretty rapidly and take territory in order to be able to win this one. And there's a lot of reclaim floating around. We can see just how much. A lot of it does not register on the Control Shift command, so we don't actually see a huge amount of rocks. Well, we don't actually see anything with Control Shift, but there is a lot there, and it will get picked up when they get their engineers out across the map. Let's go and check in with how the expansions are going, and we can see those first engineers getting out there for Double D. He is going all the way out to grab mexes. He will be grabbing reclaim, and we'll see a lot of orders. We can see there's an attack move and quite a bit of reclaim planned for him. Godzilla has not quite got the same engineer presence out the front, but we can see a whole stack of pigeons going down for him, so that could be indicative of a slightly higher air build for him. And his teammate Master Beta is going land spam. We can see though there is an air factory planned after a few more pigeons, but his expansion is, well, he's going quite well with his scouts and his tanks, but he needs to get some engineers out to the front line. So far he's just got this one guy here who is currently on reclaim duty. Down in the south we can see a scout already out for Cups, so that is nice to see. And we've got an expansion engineer out here, and he's actually going for a forward factory position, so he's going to be making use of the adjacency on that mix, and he's going to be throwing down a few land factories to give him a little bit of spam that he can send up towards Master Beta. And let's have a look at the engineer work that we've got here for Legend Lore. Just a single engineer out so far. He's managing to get quite far up. He's going to be able to grab mexes, grab reclaim, and an excellent job here from Orion 66. He's already got this engineer all the way to the center of the map. He will be able to grab that mex and grab a little bit of reclaim before anybody else gets there, though there is a little bit of a tank, which if he is on guard duty for this engineer may not come into play, but if he sends him all the way out to the front, he will easily pop off that engineer and take it. Though Orion doing a very nice job of getting more engineers out to the front. He has actually gotten across to in second center mix there, and a very nice play for him. On the scoreboard we can see that the guys are actually pretty even across the board, but Legend Lore is actually jumping a little bit ahead at this early stage. Of course, he is rated 1400, so at the higher end of this particular match, and he is going to maybe use that to his advantage. We can see Orion is actually catching up now. He's got 19 mass per tick income, and that'll be in no small part due to these mexes right at the front that he's managed to capture. He does probably want to get a little bit more build capacity online, and that's exactly what these factories are for. So he's going to be able to spew out units and engineers from those guys and pick up as many of those rocks in the center, just to give him that little bit more advantage and a little bit more spam. Looks like we might be having the first small engagement, and it's going to be led by an engineer from Orion 66, so not the highest DPS for those guys, and he's going to lose quite handily there, but there are a few tanks which Orion could bring into play, and he's got three 3 strikers there, so there is enough to take out. Well, there's actually another couple coming up as well, and if he was to micro those a little bit, then he will win, but as it stands, he has now jumped onto that, and he has responded in kind, and he has pushed back Double D. So it's still a little bit of a hold there for Orion, but he did lose that forward engineer, which is a little bit unnecessary, and he has to get this next guy all the way up from here in order to make up for that. So a little bit more micro attention at the front line, perhaps in order, and that will serve Orion very well. We've got a little bit of an air engagement happening, so these guys are starting to fend for their air control. We can see a bomber out there for Cups. Did not last too long. He may have got a 1 or 2 passes. There is a dead engineer there, so perhaps making use of itself, but it was shot down pretty early on, and we can see there's actually another bomber on its way out. So if Cups can maintain a little semblance of air control, then he will be able to make use of those bombers, and I don't think anybody else is pushing bombers out just at this time. We can see a little bit of anti-air in the mix for Orion, so he's obviously anticipating a little bit of bomber play, but as yet we don't see anything from these guys. There are interceptors coming out for Double D. We have got, well, what is happening there? There we go. So perhaps a little bit more action from Godzilla, and that air factory just making interceptors for Master Beta. So not a lot of air-to-ground capability for the North, but they will be building up the interceptor base in order to fend off any bombers that Cups sends their way. And we can see that, well, that is Double D. He's got a little bit of a critical mass here in the North, and he's got enough to push back Orion 66, so he is now going to be able to take control of that. There is a stream of units coming in, so that will eventually be able to take over, but, well, now he's got enough online, and there's enough damage to the Double D units there. There is a nice backup unit right coming in this way, and that's actually going to run straight into the commander, who is on upgrade, so they will be able to skirt around him without taking too much damage should they wish. And actually, unfortunately for Orion 66, he has opted to do an upgrade on the front line, and there are artillery, so the Lobos here for Double D actually outrange that ACU quite effectively, and they will sit there and they do 500 damage alpha strike to that ACU, and we can see he's very quickly dropping down. He's down to just under, well, less than 50% health now. He has taken a lot of damage from standing there far too long and taking that artillery fire, because the artillery are out of range of his main gun, and they were able to sit there with impunity and just plink away at that ACU and just shred the health off, I should say, without any kind of response. So we can see the ACU coming in for Double D, so now he's going to be able to pick up all of that reclaim. I'm not sure if there's any engineers. There's a couple of them back here near the front line, and he will be able to use the ACU to maximum effect, use the reclaim and the main gun on that guy to be able to push back. He's definitely got an advantage over Orion 66 in the center now, but there is quite a bit of support coming across from Legend Lore, and there is this little group of units up here, which Orion perhaps suffering from a little bit of a lack of APM on this one, because he could easily come up and take out the forward position here for Double D and wipe that out, get rid of the reclaim that Double D is currently getting, and take out the mexes. So that would be a nice move indeed, but we'll have to see if he remembers to get those guys into the action and make use of them. We've got a little bit of movement over here for Master Beta, and he is looking like he wants to attack a little bit, and he probably would be quite well to do so right now, because Cups has not got a lot of units. What he does have is congregated here in the south, and those guys are not going to be terribly useful if Master Beta was to push up the center. There's quite a few avenues in here. Of course, there are many small hills in this map, Plateau small, and he would actually be able to run around a few of those guys and do quite a bit of damage to the engineering and radar, and the intel would go down, and so he would actually be quite well off to push through at this time, and that is probably because Cup's ACU is right out of position, so it would actually lend a possibility of grabbing a decent attack through the center, perhaps a nice run by and getting back into Cup space and doing a little bit of damage. But it looks like he's going to be content to sit still and perhaps just take a little bit of bomber fire, because there is another bomber hovering around here for Cups, and it looks like he is probably intent on, well, he's going for that radar first of all. There is an interceptor response. There's plenty online there for Master Beta to take that bomber out, but it did take out the radar, which was quite handy for Master Beta, but that will be gone now. Alright, let's go back to the center here because we've got quite a big gathering of troops. We have got a lot of T1 online for these guys in the south, and really only Double D to fend them off. So far we haven't seen a lot from Godzilla, so he's letting the two guys on his flanks take the brunt of the land assault, and he is probably sitting there and he will be focusing on either teching or air. Let's see exactly what he's doing. He has got a couple of core T2 mixes, so doing quite well for himself there. And he has got T2 land ready to go. So he has got a Rhino on its way out already. And is that the first Rhino out of the factory? It looks like it might be. So that will give him a decent leg up because, of course, Rhinos have got an excellent amount of damage density. So what we mean by that is you've got a lot more damage and a lot more HP packed into a smaller area. You do technically get more out of T1 units, but because the density is so much higher, it is a lot more effective at taking out swathes of T1. And we've actually got a little courier on the way there with just a couple of units of build capacity on board, and those guys are going to be heading over this way to grab some reclaim. They probably don't want to stray too close to the Lobo fire coming in from Orion 66, and he will have spotted that now that he's got an intercept flying overhead, and he's actually opting to go all the way up here, and he's going to grab the reclaim, so adding to his engineering capabilities up in the top left corner there. And these bombers are actually going to town on this formation of T1, and it looks like there's a little bit of a lack of response there from Master Beta. He's only just moving those interceptors, and now they will easily dispatch that bomber, but he lost a few more T1 units, so he does have to be a little bit careful and watch out that he doesn't just get picked off and lose a critical mass, and which, well, that would give Cups the ability to push right through his line. And with only 3v3, these guys really don't want to be giving up any of their players because that will be quite an imbalance. And there's actually a severe imbalance up in the top left here because Orion has got a whole lot of capacity online and he has just not got anything in opposition to him. There is the ACU for Double D, there is a bunch of units coming in response, but they do have to also cover down here against Legend Lore. So we can see Godzilla has got his ACU to the front line, and that will be able to add to the firepower, but he is actually quite outnumbered right now. He really needs to get those T2 tanks online and at the front line to be able to make a difference, and it looks like right now, well, Godzilla is perhaps just a little bit outgunned by the amount of T1 that is there. There is a massive swarm that would easily be enough to wrap up his ACU and cause a lot of problems, and then assisted by Legend Lore's ACU, which still has 9600 health on it. That would be able to do a heck of a lot, although we can see that there is actually a gun upgrade on that guy there, so Godzilla doing a nice job of fending off that T1 with just his ACU because he has got the extra range and the extra firepower from that upgrade. Things are extremely static over here on the right hand side, so we can see that Master Beta is content just to sit here, and he's throwing down a triad. So he's got his T2 upgrade, he's wanting to secure the area, and he's going to put down that triad, and we can see it's going to have a lot of range and be able to blink away at any emplacements and any mixes that Cups has got in place. But a single triad is not going to be able to fend off all of the T1 that Legend Lore and Cups can muster. We've got a nice little spotting of a transport there, so Master Beta able to jump in and take it out, but he does want to be careful not to land those interceptors right there because they of course will die to the ground units stationed there from Cups, so he has to be a little bit careful there. And we've got a T1 PD throwing down, so trying to make a little bit of a defensive position, which is not always the best idea because on a map like this, units can skirt around and go down the next lane, and because this is a physics-based simulation, the cliffs here, we can have a look at those guys, they will block fire, so they will take the brunt of anything coming out of a PD if there is their fit is sitting in between them and the units. So they do probably not want to focus too much on those PD and just make sure they get enough mobile units out. And it looks like Godzilla is getting pushed back a little bit here. It's a little bit of a dangerous commander there from Legend Lore. He also has the gun upgrade, so he's got the extra damage and the extra range, and so he's just popping back under that shield just to make sure he survives. But it does look a little bit like the North team is hemmed in just a bit right now. They are having to defend off, and well, there's actually a little bit of a PD creep, so that is clearly Master Beta's plan. He is just going to slowly move forward, building PD as he goes, and those guys are just going to try and take out anything that they come across. There is a Viper out there for Cups, and Vipers are of course the arch nemesis of T2 PD because they are so effective at taking those guys out. It looks like he's actually sitting within range right now, and it could be a very nice move to target that with the triad, but it looks like Master Beta hasn't currently got that as the plan, and he's going to just continue taking fire. I thought that shot might have been going the Viper's way, actually. There we go, and it's starting to take that guy out. So the Viper will go down momentarily, but it does mean that the T2 tech on the field for Cups is going to be able to push back the T2 PD creep from Master Beta. So I'm not quite sure what his plan is here, but he's moving all of those pillars back. So he's got a decent number of pillars online. Of course, pillars are not the most powerful T2 tank, but they are quite cheap. And if you spam them in large numbers, you will be able to overwhelm quite handily any T1 and T2 forces that the other guys have put out. But they will not last too long against T3 should Cups or Legend Lore shift that way in the near future. So we've got the PD emplacement here. It looks like Master Beta is actually giving up. He's got a almost complete triad there, which is a little bit of a shame. He could have perhaps recalled that, or reclaimed that I should say, but it looks like he's maybe a little bit suspicious of what Legend Lore has got in the center here. So right now Legend Lore is in a fantastic position of being able to hit across in any direction he wants. He can come across and try and take out the ACU for Master Beta. He can push forward up here. If he can punch through the pillars, then he'll be able to get straight to Master Beta's base, and as well as Godzilla's base. And if they can get right through, there is actually nothing there to stop them, because there is very little in the way of defense online back in the base. They are shifting everything to the front lines, and right now they're having to choose between the left and right lanes, and well, it looks like they are mostly going to the left because that is where the threat is coming from right now. But that does leave them a little bit open here, because there's just a single player defending this, and you could easily have both Legend Lore and Cups pushing in this lane on the right and breaking through. So the bottom team is looking quite firmly in control of which way the land game is going to head, and it looks like Legend Lore is opting to punch straight up through here towards Godzilla's commander. Perhaps the plan here is to be able to take out that ACU and remove one player from the game. So we'll see if they are going to be successful in that, but there's probably enough T2. We can see quite a nice pack of rhinos sitting around, and they are ready to move in. There's also a Viper or two for a little bit of that extra range, and we can see that blinking away at the T2 PD that has been thrown down there by Orion. So it looks like the attack is going to just be pulled back a little bit, so it's probably just amounted to a small amount of reclaim and nothing much else. A couple of Medusas out of position there for Godzilla, and they get destroyed very quickly. It does look like there's a little bit of an opening on the left hand side here for Orion though, because it looks like Double D is almost all out of defense. He's got a single T1, well, he doesn't even have the T1 PD, it has been destroyed. He has only got a smattering of units in here, and actually there's mostly anti-air, so he doesn't want to fly any aircraft over the top, but he can move his tanks in quite well. The ACU plus all of this T1, and that would be able to punch through and cause a big problem for Double D. So it looks like the bottom team, while they're in control of this game, they don't quite have the initiative in terms of punching through the other lines where they feel like it. So Legend Lore having another go here. There's a lot of rhinos on the field though, and those rhinos are going to be absolutely lethal to the T1 that is coming through there from Legend Lore. There are Mongoose in the mix, so those guys have got fantastic range on them. They've got a couple of weapons, and they are going to be able to sit back and blink away, but they don't want to get within range of those rhinos because they will evaporate quite quickly. And we can see there's a couple, well, there's one PD and a second one just about going down, and they are, well, I'm not sure if they're going to be able to hold this position. So Legend Lore definitely trying to build a firebase on the doorstep of Godzilla, but it doesn't look like he's quite got the critical mass to stop the rhinos from being able to come forward and knock out whatever he puts into place. So a little bit of a stalemate there, but he could perhaps redirect some of these guys here and help out Cups, who so far is content to build a whole lot of T1 armies and then sit around with them doing not a heck of a lot. So he maybe wants to try and employ those guys a little bit more. It would not take a lot, and in fact he doesn't even need to reclaim because there's a gap in the wall, and at the end he could actually funnel a whole lot of those Mantis up around the outside and get right back here into the back of Godzilla's base, Master Beta's base, and that would force him to respond, perhaps even pull back some of these frontline troops and maybe create a little bit of an opening on this side. So there's a few options here. The South team not quite taking the initiative that I think they could, but we'll see how this game plays out in any case. Meanwhile, Godzilla's still just taking mobile missile fire, and those guys are, well, they need to be keeping moving, and he needs to keep his shields up. It looks like he might be trying to respond to that with his ACU, but I wouldn't recommend coming in within range of a triad or two under shield coverage, because that is going to make you have a pretty bad day, especially when you're on a Cybran ACU sitting on 12,000 maximum HP, which is of course what the UEF commander starts with, currently sitting on 7,800, so he's down in the yellow and he doesn't have a lot of health to deal with triad fire that's coming his way, and there's actually a lot of mobile missile launches coming up, so it looks like Legend Lore is very intent here on breaking this position at range. And I suspect he's going to be able to do it, because Godzilla deciding that he is actually going to get out of there, and he's pulling up. He only has a few rhinos left with him. He's got a couple of Vipers as well, and they will help in the event that this turns into a complete stalemate of a point defense war. But at this time, Legend Lore maybe being a little bit indecisive. No, he's actually responding to Master Beta coming in. So Master Beta seeing that Godzilla's in a little bit of trouble, and he's providing a little bit of pressure. Of course, this does mean that right now Cups is actually under no pressure whatsoever, and he's able to build up quite a lot of force. He's able to tick up as well, so we can see he's got a whole bunch of T2 mixers there. He's got T2 power going down, and we can see, I'm expecting him to have a little bit of air, because he doesn't have any pressure on him at present, and I'm not actually seeing the kind of air that I would expect. The only air presence for the bottom team is actually there from Orion, so maybe we can see actually the exact prediction of mine about grabbing the Mantis and setting them around the back of Master Beta's base is eventuating. There are a couple of pillars moving to intercept. There are enough Mantis online to deal with those, but not if they dribble in one by one, because those guys are not going to be able to eat away the health before the pillar chews them away in single file. But it looks like there might be a critical mass there. They're all very spread out still. I have no doubt that some of those guys are going to get into the back of the base, but they do need to probably be a little bit more densely packed in order to be able to counter the pillars that are coming out from Master Beta. And we can see Godzilla is opting to push forward. Of course, he does have the stealth upgrade on that ACU, so he does need to stay out of visual range, but other than that he can shoot with impunity, and he's actually managed to do a lot of damage to that forward firebase, and he's taken very little damage himself. He's actually nearly up to full health, and we can see he's actually got T3 on the field. He's got loyalists. They do have that anti-missile capability, so that is fantastic to see, with the mobile missiles heading straight back to where they came from. Very nice use of that unit capability indeed. So it does look a little bit imbalanced in that Legend Lore has got a lot more at the front line, but Godzilla able to hold him back very well using just the bare minimum. He's got loyalists to combat those mobile missiles, he's got Vipers of his own, and he is actually going to sit there and start reclaiming, and he's actually able to grab a whole bunch of that, which is going to put him in a nice position in terms of his economy. And talking about economy, let's go and have a look at the scoreboard. We have got Legend Lore sitting at the top of the scoreboard with 52 mass per tick. We've got Godzilla coming up second, and he is at the same point as Cups, both sitting on 50 mass per tick. Next we've got Master Beta, he is sitting on 46 mass per tick, 33 for Orion, and last on the table is Double D sitting on 29, and that's probably due to losing some of his forward expansions to Orion here and just not being able to hold on to quite as much as he otherwise could. We've got a little bit of a Corsair build here. How many Corsairs have we got online so far? Just a couple. But it does look like Godzilla is firmly in control of air right now. He's got a pretty substantial pack of interceptors, and that's assisted actually by Master Beta's interceptors. And so the North team definitely in pretty handy air control. And those loyalists are going to be absolutely brilliant at destroying all the Mantis that are coming this way, and they are not going to last too long at all, and that's just going to provide a bit more reclaim to go into Godzilla's coffers. And he's already got engineers sitting here in the front line waiting for that, so he is in a really good position to just keep scooping up everything that Legend Lore sends his way, and that is going to stand him in really good stead for that. He has picked up 9,500 reclaim, and that compares to Legend Lore's 5,500. So we've got a 4,000 mass differential there in terms of the amount of reclaim these guys have picked up. And those Corsairs now coming out into play. There's 4 of them. They're taking out the TMD. So the plan there for Godzilla is obviously to throw a few more missiles that way, and just to take out the missile defense that Legend Lore has put into place, and that will allow the Vipers just to keep chewing through this forward position that Legend Lore is investing in. And Legend Lore has also switched up to T3. We can see there's a Percival on the field, and think that's actually the first Percival out of the gates, and there is another one in the factory there. So not doing too badly in terms of keeping up with the tech. It does put him a little bit behind because there are half a dozen loyalists already there for Godzilla, so that's a definite tech advantage. But we can see there's actually a couple of these speedy loyalists. They've gotten all the way back up into Godzilla's base. They have punched through Master Beta's front line. We can see all of the troops have evaporated for Master Beta, and that is actually allowing the South team through. Now it looks like there's probably enough. There is a brick online, and that is going to finish off that loyalist, and that will secure the area. And it looks like Master Beta bringing his troops back across after responding to the Mantis threat on the right hand side there, and that's actually going to give him a decent amount of firepower, and assisted by that brick, that's going to be a little bit hard for a bit of T2 to push through from Legend Lore. So not the most effective push ever, and perhaps just a little bit more reclaim for the North team. So what we're seeing so far is a little bit of turtling from the top, and basically a lot of reclaim being given from the South team up towards the North, and that is no truer than anywhere other than this here in the center. Well, that is a lot of reclaim. We can see there's a lot of wreck marks, and that is contributing to that fantastic amount of reclaim that Godzilla has pulled up. Alright, we can see the T2's army is just facing off here, a little bit of assistance from a T1 bomber or two, and that will be easily a win and a bunch more reclaim. We would really like to see some engineers get out to that front line from Master Beta, because there are quite a few wrecks sitting in this area. There's also quite a few over here from where those Mantis push through, and he really needs to be pulling those guys up, and there's actually a few wrecks back here. So quite a bit of reclaim these guys could be pulling up. Most of it is sitting on that north side, like we've been talking about, where the bottom team is kind of feeding the south, and there is a very narrow pass here in which Double D has holed himself up in. He's throwing down tac missile defense to try to stave off the mobile missiles coming in from Orion. Of course, that is always a losing proposition. You do not want to engage in missile warfare by building TMD, because you will lose mass for mass, and there is no way that you're going to come out better off. It does temporarily help you stave off a assault if you have the means to push forward, and it looks like Orion is actually taking the initiative to go up and around the back. There's a few movements, well, there's a few troops that are just moving around a little bit up the back there, and it looks like Orion has spotted the opportunity. He will be able to get right round into the back. If there is no response, we might see another happy brick coming up from Godzilla. That would be nice to see, and if he was to move up this way, that would secure the pass up the top extremely well, and we can actually see that Godzilla is now taking the offensive. He's coming out, he's got those loyalists. They are coming up against Percivals, so that is generally a losing proposition. Those Percivals have got a lot of health, a lot of range, and they have got a massive alpha strike. Bricks will be able to take them on reasonably well, but you do need a superior number of bricks to be able to make that work, because the alpha strike on that Percival is just so fantastic. And we've got even more Corsairs building up for Godzilla, so he is definitely looking like he wants to try a snipe, but he just doesn't quite have enough online. We can see there is an air cleaner going down from Legend Lore, so static AA, just to try and make sure that that doesn't happen. But of course, if that AA comes under too much fire from these bricks and loyalists coming in from Godzilla, then that will open up the way for those Corsairs to head on through and take out the ACU of Legend Lore. So things are looking a little bit dicey there for Legend Lore. If he is not able to push back, which he is not going to be able to, there is a few triads online, but that is not enough to stop a horde of bricks and loyalists pushing forward, and backed up by mobile missile launchers. So that is a definite problem, and we can see a little bit of T3 artillery fire coming in. So Legend Lore, I think, deciding that this is probably a losing proposition at this point. I was thinking that he was probably about to head back out of there, but it looks like he's actually going for a shield instead, which is not going to work too well. He's now down into the yellow, sitting on 10,400 HP, and in comes a first pass of Corsairs. So that is one. Are we seeing an air response from the South team? Do they have anything online? They've got a few interceptors here, but that is pretty much it. So there is just not a lot online for the South team, and Mr. Legend Lore is now down into the red, sitting on 2,500 HP. He is not long for this world, and that is going to open up a big gap in the center, which Godzilla can push through. So this could be a little bit of a turning point, and another round, of course, is nicely dodged by Legend Lore, but he's sitting on 300 HP. One more hit finishes it off, and that is the end of Legend Lore. So now that's starting to open up a little bit for the top team, because they have the initiative and they've got enough units in the center. There were a couple of Percivals there looking a little bit dangerous for Legend Lore, but unfortunately they have all vaporized, and well, there's just a few units left for Cups, because there's just not much left in the centre other than a whole lot of reclaim. So who's going to be able to grab the engineers into there, because we can see there's quite a bit ready for the grabbing. There's Percival Rex at 1,000 mass each. That is going to be very handy for someone to pick up. Godzilla does need to renew his efforts in the front though, because he did lose everything that he had put forward, and there are still a couple of Percivals in there, loyalists, and those guys are pretty heavily damaged, and they are going to not last too long against a brick or two, especially if there's a little bit more air support, and we can see more Corsairs coming in from Godzilla. So definitely making the most of that air superiority advantage that those guys do have. And I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a shift to T3 in the background, because what tends to happen is one team gets air control and they stop producing interceptors, and they give the other team an opportunity to tech up, maybe produce a bunch more interceptors and gain the air control. So it can bounce back and forward, but there is currently just an overwhelming number of interceptors, and that's coming from all three players on the north. So those guys are in very strong position in the air game, and we can see the last of those units for Cups now being mopped up. There is quite a lot of mass in the centre here, so we probably want to see some engineers coming out, and there's actually a whole stack of engineers coming out for Godzilla, and those guys will be on a reclaim mission. There is a bunch of T2 moving in, but those guys are coming up against bricks. Fortunately, there are 4 Percivals in the mix. 4 Percivals against 2 bricks is an absolute no-brainer, and that will easily be a win for Master Beta. And that actually means that there's not a lot online down here for the South team to push back with. It looks like Cups is perhaps a little bit behind in the tech game. But what is this? That looks suspiciously like a beetle snipe in the making, so we'll have to see what is going on. We can see that he has actually shifted up to T3 land, because we can see a bouncer coming out there for him. He is obviously aware that they are significantly behind in the air game, and they will need a little bit more support if push comes to shove and they end up with bombers over their bases. So we can see a fantastic push here from Double D. He's got mostly T1 in that mix, so there's a good number of pillars mixed in there. He is able to take out the shield. He will need to work his way through these triads. There are an awful lot of triads. Well, actually no, there's an awful lot of anti-air because of that air threat, and that will actually mean that the army there for Double D will be able to come in quite nicely, and he's actually going to get sandwiched between bricks on this side from Godzilla and the T2 army there from Double D, so that is going to do nothing but add another pile of reclaim to the coffers of the top team. So those guys are pretty quickly going to evaporate under that sustained fire, and there's actually units coming in, so it looks like Master Beta is going to come over to the left hand side of the map here and join the fight, and we're probably going to see a concerted effort coming down this way against Orion. There really is not a lot to stop these guys right now, so when I say that, I mean, of course, if there is not a Monkey Lord coming, but there is, and it is just completed. So, there is now a Monkey Lord online for Cups. Is there a corresponding experimental up this way for Godzilla? Monkey Lords, of course, are the cheapest experimental to put into play, and the only one in the north here that is capable of that is Godzilla, and it does not quite look like he has decided to throw together an experimental, although there is probably plenty of reclaim in the middle here to be able to fund one. So we'll have to see if he throws down something, or if they've even spotted that, so that Monkey Lord, as yet, not really coming into play, but he will die to air, I kind of think, because the top team has just got such a fantastic amount of air control, and there are a lot of Percivals and bricks online as well. Let's just have a quick look at how many Percivals Master Beta has got online. He's got 10 Percivals. They are spread a little bit across the map, and we'll have a quick count of the bricks there. There's a half a dozen bricks for Godzilla, so there's quite a bit of that monkey to contend with, and we can see the monkey is coming straight up, and he is going to head on into that advancing pack of units, and well, I'm not sure that he's going to be in time, because those units can skirt around and get straight into the base of Orion. Even if the Monkey Lord is able to take those guys out, he will take a lot of damage, and it could cause irreparable harm to the economy here for Orion, who has now lost all of the gains that he had made. Well, not quite all of them. We've still got one Lonely Mechs up there with a little contingent of T2 guarding it, and it looks like the North team has thought better of that attack, and they have actually opted to come back and consolidate their forces just a little bit more, because that Monkey Lord is looking pretty dangerous right now. So it's definitely a big advantage for the North team, but there is a single Monkey Lord which could potentially turn the tide of this battle, especially if it got into the right place. It could have gone and round the other side and done a lot of damage virtually unchallenged, and we can see there is a reactionary Monkey Lord there from Godzilla, and he is going to get that up. He's sitting at 8,200 out of 4,500 hit points so far. It is going to take a little bit longer for him to be able to get that online, but once it does, the T3 with that is going to easily be enough, and he's actually sent his Corsairs in to try and do as much damage to that monkey as he can, and that is now down, well, 3,500, so it's down, or 35,000 I should say, down 10,000 hit points for absolutely no gains so far. So it looks like the air control is definitely going to be a winner in this case, and we can see just how many interceptors are online for the top team, and there's just a small band of interceptors there for Cups. None of these guys shifting to T3 air yet, so no one quite getting that T3 power online, and well, it looks like, no, I thought he might have been shifting up to T3 air there, but it's actually just a T2 factory HQ. So, this Monkey Lord is very indecisive, it looks like. It doesn't know quite which way to turn. There are a couple of options that he has right now. He could punch up through the units that these guys have accrued and block any potential attacks, but he's probably going to lose the Monkey Lord in the process because there is quite a lot online and a lot of air there for the North team. The other option would be to try and sneak it around the back and get into the base and demolish everything in the North team's base while they are focused on the front line. So that is something else that he could potentially do, but that would require sneaking the Monkey Lord all the way around the back without getting it detected, and he perhaps could have done that in the first instance, but now that the North team is aware of that, that's probably not the most likely thing. They will be keeping an eye out for that, and well, it looks like Cups decided to make a liar of me because I didn't check for a T3 Air Factory HQ, which is sitting right there, so he has shifted up to ASF. If he is able to get a critical mass of those guys, he will be able to take back air and deny the Corsairs there from Godzilla, but there are still an awful lot of T1 interceptors online for the North team, so that's going to be slightly problematic because a few ASF are just not powerful enough to take down a big horde of interceptors. And we can see there's actually a second Monkey Lord online for Cups, so doing very nicely. He's actually taking the eco game away very handily here. He's actually sitting on 158 mass income, and his closest rival is 76 in double D, so more than twice the mass income of the best next player. So definitely an eco advantage there, and he's using those to spew out Monkey Lords. He could potentially do a nice little trick here because the North team is aware that there is one Monkey Lord, but they're probably not aware yet that there is two. So he could potentially throw one Monkey Lord up the center and make the team in the North think that that is where it is. Meanwhile, the other Monkey Lord sneaks around the outside and hits the bases without them being aware. So that is a potential strategy they could do, but they do need to keep the existence of that second Monkey Lord under wraps if they have any hope of pulling that off. And we can see there's actually a couple of Percivals making their way up, so the main base is now starting to come under a little bit of artillery fire. Unfortunately, those ASF are going to do very poorly against incoming Percivals. That is probably not the best place to land, and the Monkey Lord here is going to react to that, and he's going to come in and try and take out those Percivals. It looks like he's trying to consolidate the amount of damage here. So by having two Monkey Lords at once, it gives you 8k DPS on those two lasers, and of course twice the amount of health that has to be eaten through by the opposing team. So it looks like he's probably going for a regular, straightforward frontal assault from those Monkey Lords. So two of those Monkey Lords is going to have a nice time of pushing back against the armies here. But of course the problem for Cups is that there is a stack more Percivals coming this way, and he doesn't want to leave the side of his base undefended, which it currently is. There's a couple of bricks. No, there's a bouncer. No, they are bricks, sorry. And there's the bouncer is over this way. Alright, so there's a couple of bricks there, and they are not going to fare very well against half a dozen shielded Percivals. So this is definitely opening up the way for Master Beta to push directly into the base. There is another Monkey Lord coming online. It's up into the yellow. I think it will probably get finished in time, but he will be pushed back a little bit and probably lose the little bit of eco that he's got across this side of the map. It looks like most of it is concentrated in his main base though, so that won't be the end of the world for Cups, but he does need to be able to respond to that, and those two bricks now coming under fire, and they are taking hits. They're not going to be too long for this world, and well, that Monkey Lord's still a wee way off from completing. There's not a lot of build capacity on that. It looks like just a single T3 engineer, so it is going to take a little while, and that does give Master Beta the opportunity to get those Percivals in and finish off that Monkey Lord before he gets completed. He's up into the green. It will be reasonably close, and there are a couple more bricks heading out trying to stop those Percivals, but that march of the Percivals is absolutely impossible to stop with a single brick, so that is not going to fare too well. So it looks like he is probably needs to focus on building that Monkey Lord just a little bit more. It might be a lack of resources. He may be stalled out. Let's just have a quick look and see how he is going. He's actually got a little bit of mass in the tank, and he's got a surplus of energy, so he definitely needs to hurry up and get that finished off. He's actually recalled one of these Monkey Lords back this way to come and take out those Percivals, and they are going to start taking fire from that guy. And the other Monkey Lord is online. He needs to watch out though, because those Percivals only need 1 or 2 shots each against that ACU to finish him off, because he's sitting on, well, actually he's completely unupgraded. He is sitting on 10,000 hit points, so the 1600 alpha strike of the Percival would mean that you don't actually need too many Percivals at all to get within range of that ACU, and they will be able to one-shot him, so he definitely wants to be a little bit careful of that. But now he does have 3 Monkey Lords online. He did lose his T3 land HQ, which is going to be a little bit of a problem, but he's got a lot of firepower online in terms of Monkey Lords. But it looks like he may not be using that to maximum effect, because he has got them all sitting in his base right now. They are doing exactly 0 DPS damage to the other team, and he does need to make sure that they are actually in play if he wants to be able to do anything with those guys. Of course, Cups is 1100 rated. He is giving up a little bit of rating to the other guys on this. We've got Orion at 1300, and on the other team we've got 1400, 1200, 1200. So he is a little bit behind in terms of global rating, and well, he's got a little bit of a help from his teammates telling him to grab that reclaim. And of course there are a bunch of Percivals in that mix. There is a lot of reclaim there. There is probably just about enough to finish off that Monkey Lord of his, so he wants to grab that down as soon as he can and get that Monkey Lord finished. Although at this point a 4th Monkey Lord is probably not going to do a world of good, because they are sitting there doing not a lot. He does need to get those guys right up, and we can see that the Monkey Lord is online for Godzilla, so that counter Monkey Lord ready to go, and a second one just about finished. So the advantage that Cups has is starting to diminish, and he really needs to make use of those guys. He's probably quite scared of leaving Rex for the North team, because they've already given so much reclaim up to the north that I just don't know if he wants to push in, but he needs to, because you cannot win your game by sitting back at your base and having your Monkey Lords on defense duty. So he needs to get those guys up. There's a lot that he can punch through. He can punch through any of these lanes up the top, and in fact the ACU over here is quite undefended. Now, the South team does have T3 air, so they've got T3 scouts. We can see a couple of those guys floating around there, and so they should be well aware of the positioning of that ACU, and they could easily move to intercept, and 3 Monkey Lords against 1 UF ACU is not going to make for a very long game, so definitely an opportunity there for them to bust through and make a bit of a game difference. And the ACU for Double D, he's actually moved right back into his base now. He's got a shield upgrade by the looks of it. He's on upgrade once again, and they are, well, sitting in a pretty safe position apart from Master Beta sitting up the front. He has moved all of his T3 to defend the ACU, so it looks like they have spotted the Monkey Lord coming up the right hand side, and the North team is deciding to move in and try and block that, but the ACU is definitely vulnerable, and the Monkey Lords could actually potentially pop right around this side and take him out. Of course, Monkey Lords are massive because they are experimentals, so they can walk right over the top of units and buildings, and so walls are no problem for those guys. We can see a little build up here, but Godzilla not quite keen to push those guys in. Half a dozen bricks and a Monkey Lord are probably not quite enough to take on 2 Monkey Lords, although one of them is down into the yellow with only 34k HP. It does probably present a losing proposition though I would say a second Monkey Lord is probably going to make all the difference, and that would give Godzilla what he needs, although he has to watch out for a pretty nasty pack of Percivals that are coming his way. So it looks like Orion is probably going to lead with those Percivals, and maybe if Cups follows up, so maybe a little bit more coordination between these two guys to get their Percivals and the Monkey Lords in line and hitting the other side at the same time is probably a good idea. That Monkey Lord is starting to make a little bit of headway. He's got a couple of flak with him, which is always a good idea because that will make them a little bit less vulnerable to air, and he is sitting still again. So again, Cups needing to just keep moving that Monkey Lord, keep getting it into play and keep making use of it. He has spent a lot of mass on those guys, and to have that mass sitting on the field doing absolutely nothing is definitely a waste. So he definitely needs to be getting those guys up into the fight and making use of his purchase. The Corsairs are, well, I was going to say looking snipeable, but there's not that many Corsairs on the north there for Godzilla. He's focused away a little bit from those guys, and perhaps he is going for a bit of T3 air. That looks like the plan. So he is going to try and shift up and counter the ASF that Cups has got online. And we can see that fourth Monkey Lord, and well, what is this? It looks like Cups has opted for a bug. So a Soul Ripper in the works. So again, another experimental, and he just needs to make a little bit more use of that. See, we've got two Monkey Lords again sitting here doing absolutely no damage. These guys definitely need to be getting into the play and making use of themselves. And this guy, well, he's a little bit indecisive as well. He is not really strong enough to punch through a whole bunch of shielded Percivals, so he is wandering around and sort of making a nuisance of himself, but not to any great extent. So still problematic, and not sure what Cup's plan is actually here. Another big scouting party coming up this way. He's going to try and get some eyes on the enemy ACUs most likely, and it looks like Masturbator has actually had enough of that Monkey Lord, which is hovering outside range, and he's just going to surge forward with those Percivals and that Monkey Lord down into the yellow, so he will actually die pretty quickly to a stack of Percivals. So the amount of Monkey Lords coming out from Cups is definitely impressive, but it's not quite enough to actually change the tide of this game. We can see that Monkey Lord taking more and more fire. The main laser on that guy is definitely facing away from the Percivals, and he is going to die without firing a shot. So a huge waste. Of course, there was air assistance there from Godzilla as well. So a massive amount of waste, and there were a whole lot of transports, and we can see engineers already in the air and en route to that wreck. So making very good use of the reclaim. Godzilla is just going to head straight on in there and grab that. We can see there are already engineers heading up. Well, it looks like they were trying to come in for Cups and grab some of that reclaim, but unfortunately engineers don't fare well against a huge horde of T3, and that does mean that Godzilla is going to beat him to the party. We've got those two T3 engineers already on the ground. He needs to quickly remember to give the reclaim order, and then that mass will become his, and that is going to feed the experimental engine of Godzilla a little bit more, and he kind of needs that. Well, actually he needs those ASF online really quickly, because the Soul Ripper here for Cups is going to be quite problematic. It will be able to eat through interceptors quite quickly, and there are a good number of ASF online for Cups as well. We are starting to see a little bit of ASF for Double D, so that's two players on the north which have switched up to T3 air, but it does need a little bit more of a boost so that they can keep that air control and continue to harass. There are actually three Monkey Lords in position now, and hopefully those guys are going to be able to do a little bit more damage than the last one, because that last Monkey Lord was absolutely miserable in terms of damage dealt versus damage taken. And we've got a Fat Boy online, so making use of the UEF tech here, and he's gotten the extra range. So Mr. Orion has got that Fat Boy out, and he's bringing fire to bear on the Ford units there for Godzilla. So the Monkey Lords are responding from Godzilla. They are coming in, and they need to get within range of that Fat Boy, and if they do so, it will not last very long whatsoever, because the health on the Fat Boy is remarkably low, and he really needs to rely on kiting the enemy units and keeping out of range. We can see that shield already down into, well, there's no red on the shield, but it would be red if there was, and we can see just how quickly that Fat Boy is evaporating, and it will very, very quickly become reclaimed. The Percival's able to take out one of those Monkey Lords. It does leave another one online. He will be able to take out the remainder of those Percivals which means that there is actually very little in between that Monkey Lord and of course the bricks following it up, and a few Percivals as well, and nothing at all between those guys and this base here. So we can see some Ravagers going down. Orion desperately trying to throw some semblance of a defense together. He has pulled all of his engineers. He is sitting on 129 income, so he has got quite a bit to be able to put together some defenses, but just not enough build capacity right now, and that Monkey Lord will momentarily be upon him, and that is not going to end well for Orion. So that Monkey Lord catching these other guys out of position, so the other Monkey Lords here are victorious against that horde, especially with the Soul Ripper in support, but it's probably just a little bit late because that ACU for Orion has gone up in flames. So that is the end of Orion's game, and we've got, well, it is a 3 versus 1 now, so Cups is all alone, but Cups does hold the majority of the experimentals, and he has got a pretty substantial air force. The Soul Ripper that he has got online is going to be a little bit dangerous, especially around the periphery where there are maybe not so many SAMs. There are a decent number of ASF online there for Godzilla. There's a few there for Double D, and it looks like still no movement to T3 for Master Beta, so quite happy to rely on his teammates to grab that. The Soul Ripper here does need to be a little bit more useful because right now he's finished off that monkey, so that is actually quite useful, but there are a lot of bricks coming his way and a few Percivals there as well for Double D. So the Soul Ripper sitting on 121 kills, so doing quite nicely for himself, and those Monkey Lords do finally come back into play, so those guys are coming in to respond to the threat. Unfortunately, it's just a little bit late to save his teammate. It does mean that he has a lot of firepower online, but he is now facing the brunt of 3 players against 1, and these guys in the north have got a very serious control of the map, and they have got a lot of units all over the place. They do need to watch out for the Soul Ripper hitting them in little strikes around the edge, but other than that they are in a pretty safe place to build up the air force, to build up more experimentals and finish them off. In terms of economy, Godzilla maxing out his economy, 242 mass per tick. The next best is Master Beta at 176, 168 for Double D, and Cups last on 149. So the North team on more than triple, probably 4 times the amount of mass income that Cups can muster. That is going to give them easily a win in this, so let's just speed it up just a little bit and let's see how the game gets on, because there are a lot of ASF online for the North team. They will be able to take out that Soul Ripper. There are a bunch of ASF in defense, but that's probably not going to be quite enough. Well, they are focus firing the Soul Ripper. It means they're probably going to be able to take that guy down, but the ASF are going to win out for Cups. So it will be a slight air win for Mr. Cups, but he is going to get his Soul Ripper pushback in the process. The veterancy on that guy definitely helping, and it looks like Cups, was that a snipe? It looks like it probably was. What on earth happened there? Let's just have a quick look and see if we can spot anything in the minimap. Yeah, there is something going down there in the minimap heading towards Cups base while I was not looking. So that was the end of that game. So nicely played by the North team. They were under quite a bit of pressure initially, and that, well, they managed to push back. They picked up all the reclaim that the South team dropped for them. They were able to use that to boost the ecos, and in the end it became a little bit of an experimental war, and there was just too much eco on the North team. If they hadn't finished it off at that point, it would have been just a matter of time. So good game to these guys. We'll throw out a GG on that one, and that's the end of that.